Welcome to the roller coaster of midlife. I'm your host, Lucy Q. Now, I am a big advocate for sharing our stories as midlife women because this phase of our lives can be a chaotic storm that leaves us feeling alone. Our doctors and healthcare providers, they don't seem to have the answers that we're looking for, and that only adds to our frustration. This is why our greatest strength is in our community. And this is where we can share and learn from one another. I do want to preface this conversation by saying that we are not providing medical advice and that you should always consult your primary healthcare providers before making any major changes. Joining me today to share her midlife story is Antoniette Roze, a dynamic force in the world of speaker representation, revolutionizing the careers of health, well-being, and optimum performance experts. As the founder and CEO of Wellness Productions, Antoniette and her agency have an unwavering passion for empowering speakers to make a lasting global impact as they prosper and elevate their lifestyle. Welcome, Antoniette.
Thank you, Lucy. I'm so honored to be here with you today.
I was really intrigued by your story when you first shared it with me, and that's why I invited you to be here today. So why don't we just start off with, sharing where your midlife journey began?
It began far too young and lasted far too long. And the bummer about that is I was a really, really good girl, right? As you know, as your audience doesn't know, but as you know, I battled cancer young, as a very young person, um, just into my teens. And that opened my eyes to the world of health and wanting to take care of myself. So from a very young age, I was conscious. I cared about what I put into my body, whether it was, food, stress, the people in my life, all the things. So I figured I would earn some brownie points along the way, right? In my adulthood, I was raw vegan and then I was vegan. I was always plant intensive in one way or another. It was all about the plants, right? And so when I hit menopause pretty early in my early 40s, it hit hard, like not even soft. It hit like when somebody says hot flash, that you can, if you've never experienced one, you think, oh, well, that's unfortunate. I'm sure it's uncomfortable. No, it is like you would rather die
Being thrown in the
than,
pit of hell.
oh my gosh, it's like all of a sudden you have gone from a normal day to somebody just stuck you in an oven and you're about to die. Like that's how it feels. Get me a bucket of ice right now, right? And that went on for years. And then the night sweats, they think the night sweats are just a different version of the hot flashes. No, they're an animal of it's like your entire bed is drenching wet. My husband and I previously we loved to snuggle. We were snugglers. Do not touch me. As a matter of fact, we need 3 feet between
Yeah,
us
don't
because I
come
can
near
feel
me.
your body heat.
Don't put a hand near me. Don't do anything.
No,
Stay
honey,
away.
do not
Yeah.
cover my shoulder. I know you're being sweet, but please don't, put those kinds of things. And then I went through, some women go through this and some don't, but where my arms would go completely numb in the night. So I had to get up and walk around and kind of shake my arms, all the things that many of us go through in menopause, and the emotional ups and downs and the brain fog, all of those things. I'm like, where are my brownie points? I had not eaten a Snickers bar or eaten fast food or, drinking a soda pop for pretty much my entire, knowingly, like if somebody slipped me a soda and some other kind of drink, I didn't know it. I was a very, very good girl and I was conscious about my health, hiked, all the things. And now I am in my later 50s, and I was pretty much fed up with all of that. My husband was also, who is 11 years older than me, facing a pretty serious health issue. So one day he brought to me a article that I debated with, even though it was just on the screen, where I was yelling at it and debating with it, like, how stupid could they even think? Of course, this is ridiculous. It's so polar opposite of anything that's right. Right. And so I was kind of debating with this thing, and I've been talking for a bit. So I'm going to give you a moment, and then you can
No, I
let me
was,
know if I should go on.
yeah, no, no, keep going, keep going. Yeah.
So he was watching a financial show. He likes talk shows. It had to do with finances. It had nothing to do with health and wellness. But I am obviously in this industry. I've been in the well-being and optimal performance space, either as a producer or a speaker agent for decades. And I am a nerd, all things that have to do with performance and well-being, both sides. Like, I always want to know the side that I agree with and the side that I don't agree with. I want to know it all. Right. And so he brought me this article, these three guys who he'd been listening to. They're kind of a team of three. And they got into this sideline conversation about two of the three guys had just completely transformed. They had both reversed some pretty serious health issues that they were having. They both trimmed up and they were looking great and feeling great. And so they just started talking about it. And when the other guy said, well, what is it that you're doing? And he revealed what they were doing. That's what my husband wanted me to hear. And essentially it was a plant-free lifestyle where you're only eating meat and animal-based products, which that is what I was yelling at. Like, of course not. You need the plants. You need them, you know.
It is so counterintuitive
So
from
counterintuitive.
everything that we've been taught. And, we were all raised here in Canada. We have the Canada Food Guide, where right from an early age, we're told that you have to eat this many dairy, this many grain, this many fruit and vegetable, this much protein. It's like literally drilled into you. But over the years, we've come to understand that a lot of this was born from lobbyists and from different milk boards or whatever wanting to promote their products. It wasn't necessarily based in nutrition. And that's left a lot of people wondering. Also, when I look at it, it'll sort of equate a slice of bread counts as a grain, whereas it's like, what type of bread? Is it whole grain? Is it whole wheat? Is it rye? What is it? They kind of paint it with a broad brush, but it's certainly left a lot more questions these days when it comes to what are we supposed to be eating.
Right. Right. And so after screaming at the screen, and my curiosity was piqued enough where I went and just dove into about 7 different doctors who actually promote this lifestyle. And I wanted to know how long they've been promoting it, how long they've been actually living it, where they're getting their data from, because I am the consummate nerd. I want all the deeper details. And I did this for about a month. I really researched. And the first right off the bat, what I saw is my heroes in the plant-based world were not aging so well. I was like, well, where are your brownie points? Right? Your hair's falling out. You're not looking so good, guy. You're 67. You're looking like you're 97. Like, well, what's going on? And that was starting to concern me, right? Some of very big names. I don't want to out them right now, but they're very big names in the plant-based world that I was just beginning to question. Wow, I just saw you speak 5 years ago and you look 20 years older just 5 years later. And then as I'm following these these plant-free doctors, they look like they should be models on a calendar, right? You're like, wow, you guys look amazing. And each one of them have been pretty much on this lifestyle for years. So it's not like something that's new. Each one of them look like they spend their days in the gym. And one neurosurgeon that I really enjoy following, he laughs at that because he absolutely looks like he spends his life in the gym. He does go to the gym, but he's a neurosurgeon. He's in surgery 14 hours a day. So he doesn't have a lot of time for the gym. And yet he looks vibrant. Does not look tired, like you've been spending that much time in a high pressure position like that, in the hours that he holds. And he looks like he works out pretty much. He's got a sugar mama somewhere and all he does is work out. Like, that's what he looks like. And And that's pretty consistent across all of these different doctors. I'm happy to share any of those names if you want any of those. But there's this one doctor whose name I will share, Dr. Ovadia. He's a heart surgeon, and he wrote a book, How to Stay Off My Operating Table. I probably have the title wrong. How Not to Land on My Operating Table, whatever the title is. But he too brings out a lot of basically what you were just saying, Lucy. And I love that you educate yourself. You really dive for the deeper details as well. And I think that's one reason why you and I became fast friends.
Not nearly as detailed as you. I go looking for the highlights and dive in a little bit. But when something starts to make sense to me, if it feels right, then then I sort of make a decision. You probably go 10 times deeper than I do,
Yeah.
but I still try to look for those answers.
Ronald Reagan, trust but verify, and then verify, and then I add on, and then verify,
Verify
and
again.
verify, and then verify. Right, you do the trust but verify, and that's the healthiest way to go. Anyhow, it was interesting to see some of his studies, and based on what you said earlier, it's very difficult to just take the studies at face value. America, of course, has the FDA and
We have a study for everything these
exactly. So the main study about heart health was funded by Kellogg's.
days.
And, they sell a lot of their cereal because they're able to put that little heart with heart healthy cereal. And there is proof that many of the tests it failed. Right. And when it comes to cholesterol and the whole demonizing of cholesterol and high cholesterol it leads to heart issues, right? It's the opposite is true. In every nation where you see low cholesterol, you see high problems with heart health. So you think of these
Well, you look over the last, when did the whole, was it like 15, 20 years ago when they started to demonize like eggs? Oh, you can't eat more than so many eggs. It's going to ruin your cholesterol. You can't eat this, cholesterol, cholesterol. And then they started pushing that low fat diet. But the problem with that low fat diet is that it brought on all of these other problems.
Yeah. Yeah, we're since then, I mean, the numbers are so stark. Since then, the mortality rate has strikingly risen, and blood sugar issues, meaning diabetes, which often leads to dementia, and all the medications behind all of that, sharply risen. The sales of statin-based drugs have sharply risen. So how is that, right? And a sad commentary, and this is something again that was concerning me with my then philosophy, was when breastfeeding your baby, not a lot, but there are a good enough number where it raises an eyebrow of vegan mothers were losing their babies from their breast milk.
Oh,
And that is
really?
tragic and sad because they're making these sacrifices and they're
For
living the way that
themselves,
they're
but they're
living.
passing it on to the baby.
And
Oh,
they're
shit.
believing in these studies, right? And they're so wrong. And even the whole idea of the planet, save the animals, it's much more any big given, let's say it's a corn crop, right? Massive corn crop. There are more animals and sub animals, like different kinds of species of bugs, all the things, right, that are healthy for our planet that get wiped out. And then there are traps for the deer and the different animals that might come and eat the crops. More animals are killed, more of the planet is harmed by these mass crops, right? And so I was learning these things completely polar opposite to what I ever believed or I even ever preached or even
Well,
lived myself.
you're we're not told these things. We're given the story that we're given, and you
Mm.
believe it until you don't.
Yeah.
And I think what struck me a while ago was when I realized that theoretically you could have a carrot that was not vegan. And the reason why the carrot wouldn't be vegan was because the waste from the seafood industry was used as a fertilizer.
Yeah.
And it's like when you
Yeah.
sort of think of that,
So many double standards.
wait a second, a carrot isn't necessarily vegan. And I've been vegetarian for about 8 years, and I made the choice for health.
Yeah.
And over the years, as my kids got older, I have one that is he does a lot of research into anything. And
My kind
he
of
was the
person.
he was the one telling me, he's like, you don't understand. Your tofu is worse than my steak. And he would say, you don't understand the animals, the bunnies, the rodents, the moles, the bugs, everything that is killed in the production of soy for something like tofu. And somebody pointed out, how all the birds fly behind the tractors after they go through the fields? They're there eating the animals that have been killed along the way.
Wow.
No, I mean, that could be sort of a bit of shock factor,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's probably some leftovers that they're going after as well. But when you start to realize these things, you're like, wait a second here. What story have we been sold?
Right.
So,
And
but
then,
I want you to continue your story, because then I'm going to drop a bomb about mine.
oh, okay, I can't wait. Um, Something that you just said though about compassion, right? The just the let's one more thing on the compassion piece and then we'll move on. I've been in a lot of vegan groups and now I've been in a lot of carnivore groups. Vegans are brutal. They are brutal. They
They're
will
mean.
eat you alive if you happen to have been given a purse for the holidays or for your birthday that might have a little piece of leather in it or something. Right? They are brutal. And I'm not saying that across the board. I'm sure there's ones who aren't, but the ones I've come across, it's like I need my armor on before I go in to those platforms and groups. Whereas compassion wise, the groups that I've been with in carnivore is very loving and accepting. Like, do you want to be a dirty carnivore? Do you want to be a pure carnivore? Do you want to be a ketovore? Whatever it might be, it's all good. We're each on our own journeys and we're doing the best we can, right? It's all good. So just completely different vibe. I see over and over one helping another. There's a 700-pound man in Alaska who's not been able to leave his house for 4 years. The carnivore community has rallied around him, bought him a half a cow, bought him an air fryer, bought him whatever he needs to do this journey. He's already lost, I believe, 200 pounds. I don't have the exact number. There's no scale that will actually weigh him
Yeah,
at this
not if he
point.
can't leave his house. Yeah.
And he was near suicide, and if not physical suicide, his body was going to kill him,
Yeah.
right? And now he's got hope and optimism, and it's just so beautiful. I'm almost going to cry, just to see how people are rallying around each other. So just a big difference with regards to passion, compassion, and yes, passion. Okay, so for a month I researched, and then I'm like, okay, babe, let's just try this crazy thing for 1 month. Let's just see, right? We can give ourselves a rest from plants, if nothing else. It could be like a
And at this point, you were sort of more plant-based, but vegetarian.
so I was plant intensive. I would have maybe 8 ounces of meat per week. Like,
Okay, so you still had some meat.
yeah,
Did you have like dairy, cheese, seafood?
no dairy at all.
Okay. Okay.
And no seafood at all. I would have like white fish if it had skin and fins and scales. Not skin, fins and scales.
Mhm.
I would eat it, but no bottom feeders, those kinds of things. Um, But the reason why I even started introducing meat back into my diet is because I was just not doing well. I had no energy and my brain was so foggy. And so I started adding that back in. But I'll tell you what, Lucy, we embarked on this 30-day journey. I have a little bit of cold. Sorry about that. 2 weeks in, no more hot flashes. 2 weeks in, I was enjoying my husband again, right? Which it was like, I don't want to be gross, but do not put that hot curling iron up. Do not,
Yeah,
it was just
I've heard
so
women describe it
painful.
as that. Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's
painful.
sexual encounters could be painful if not out of the question.
It was out of the question. And it was very sad because we've been married for close to 20 years and we had such a beautiful, snuggly, sweet relationship up until, that time when it was impossible. Right. So we were able to just really connect again. And, skin to skin connection is so important in any relationship. And that was gone where that was just impossible. So that came back. My brain was just sharper and clearer. Things didn't hit me like the slightest little imperfections in a day would become this huge overriding problem that I could think of nothing else. Right. That went away. Perspective came back. Balance came back, like all, and that was just in the first couple of weeks. And now I'm going on 3 months in. I'm down what looks like 50 pounds. If I were to show you I should have given you, if you want to, in the airing of this, you're welcome to put my fat picture up. But just, I've lost, a little over 20 pounds, but because the visceral fat is, which is the most dangerous fat, right? The fat that's around your organs. I have a way to measure that. Has decreased by, I think it was something like 20%, like a crazy
Wow.
big percentage. And just that has completely reshaped my body. I do walk, but I don't really lift weights. Like I've got these 2 little 5-pounders that sometimes I'll pick up when I feel like it. But I have muscles.
Wow.
The horrible cellulite on my legs, all of that has, like, I can wear shorts again proudly. Just those kinds of things. That's the superficial outer stuff that you see, right? But I have a long family history of heart disease. I have been diagnosed with some issues there and no problems there anymore. And sometimes you forget. I have to journal and log everything because sometimes you forget how badly you used to feel. But I've gone down on my glasses, no, the strength of my
Oh,
glasses.
wow.
My teeth, I was having some pain in my teeth, and I knew that I was probably going to have some dental work done. That's all like totally gone. And so I don't want to paint this picture like just eat meat and all these beautiful things are going to happen, but really just eat meat and all of these beautiful things are going to happen. Like that's what I've experienced and that's what I've seen on countless. YouTube's huge, with countless doctors sharing their stories and sharing their data, but also many formerly plant intensive people who cared about their health and cared for their health who weren't thriving, who made the switch and the differences that it's made for them.
Yeah, definitely. Now, here's my bomb. So around the time that we met, I think I've always had dairy. I've always had cheese, dairy. I was in and out with eggs, but because of where we live now, I can get, free range, pasture raised eggs. So I
Nice.
started eating those. But around the time we met, you told me your story, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then I started seeing more and more things about meat and how the amount of vegetarian food that you need to consume to even come close to getting some of the amino acids that you need that you would get from meat, you could never do it. And then some amino acids you could just never get. You can only get them through a meat byproduct or
Yeah.
eating meat. And this started coming up more and more. And I brought it up with my husband. I said, I'm seriously considering introducing meat again. I want to stick with, we have farmers close by. I want to try and get meat from straight from the farmer so that it's not factory produced, that it's, I don't know if it's better or worse, that it lives a happy life until it doesn't.
I
But it's the farmers love their animals. They're not just a product. They're well taken care of. And so, yeah, I am no longer a vegetarian.
Woo! Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And like I started off slowly, like I made a lasagna with ground beef in it. And then we added some sausage meat to something else. But last night I actually ate a steak for
Wow.
the first
How'd it
time.
feel?
Well, it was a lot of chewing because my
A
mouth
salad is a lot of chewing.
but it's a different type of chewing.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there laughing, like, oh my God, my jaw hurts. I mean, it was probably a cut of meat that I grabbed it quickly at the little produce store here from the farmer. And I probably should have chosen a different cut of meat that would have been a bit more tender. But yeah, our jaws got a good workout. And I don't want to swear by it, but I think I slept better last night than I had in a while,
Mm.
which is big. I mean, I was out and out with insomnia for the better part of 4 years.
Oh my goodness.
For another two, I was using different forms of melatonin, or here, because cannabis is legal in Canada, there was a CBD that I could get that was formulated for night, but it was expensive. And then finally, my doctor prescribed me an amino acid. It's very familiar. It's called tryptophan. It's
Mm-hmm.
what, when you eat turkey, it makes you
Turkey.
tired. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. And, my sleep has been getting better. But last night I kind of woke up and I'm like, oh, that was a pretty good. I still did wake up, but it was way better than it had been in a while.
And so, so important, right? Because
Oh,
sleep during those hours of sleep, that's when your brain detoxifies. That's when your liver processes your hormones, right? And that those cortisol levels are really regulated during that time of sleep. And when your sleep is dysregular, or you're not getting a solid good 7 or
it
so
screws
hours.
you up in every way.
Yes, in every single way.
Every
And
way. Your
even when you
body
take
doesn't heal. Your body doesn't
exactly.
rest mentally. Oh, yeah, I could be cracker jacks when it was at the worst. Oh, yeah.
And then people think, okay, I need my sleep, so I'm going to take these pills because I have to sleep. Well, what the pills do is they skip a step and just get you right to the sleep. That step where you're in the different REM cycles and all the things. If you skip those initial steps, you've missed the trigger that your body and brain needs to go into those healing processes. So yes, you're getting the sleep, but that's why a lot of people who are on those different things, even some of the natural things, still wake up like a thud. They
Yeah.
still wake up kind of heavy, and we should naturally wake up with the sun and alive, and like a kid does, like they're
Yeah.
ready to go, right? That's how we're created. There's one person I follow who's not a doctor. Most of who I follow are doctors, but his channel is Homestead How. His name is Carrie, but he was obese and owned a homestead, obviously. Um, and he could not hardly get himself out of bed each morning. And now he looks like an entirely different human being. I think he's 200 days in. I don't know exactly. But his whole family, his wife was vegetarian, his daughter was vegan. They were all really struggling. Um, anyway, long story short, he's now up at 5 a.m. He's out taking care of the animals without an alarm clock. And he's a different human being, and just so inspiring. He's the one that's actually producing a documentary that should be released next year, called Carnivore Journey. something along those lines.
Okay.
But yes, I'm really excited for you. I'm so glad that you took the plunge. It's a big step because you're not just changing a lifestyle, right? You're changing all of the things that you ever thought you believed at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I still had a bit of broccoli because I like my vegetables, and I still had a little bit of potato, but it was moving in that direction.
Yeah.
I'll see what works for me and what doesn't.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier well-known people that were strong advocates for vegan diets that are now moving over. And I cannot remember his name, but he was the guy that started Bulletproof Coffee. He sold that, and then he went on to make Danger Coffee, I think it is. And
Yes.
he's got a new series on the TV streaming channel called Gaia. He's on there, and I heard him in one of his initial shows with on a different show, and he was talking about how he went from, just as you did, the raw vegan to vegetarian to carnivore, and he was making, he was providing some pretty important information when it came to the importance of having meat in your diet.
Yeah. Are you talking about Dave Asprey?
Yes.
Is that the one? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was an interesting one for me too. I'm like, you, not you. You wouldn't make that change,
Yeah.
would you? There's more and more are if not making the complete switch, they're getting to a place where, I've been really dogged and maybe I need to back off from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe animal foods do have a good bit of value. And I think that the more you move away from burning sugar as your fuel, as being a person who has to have that next meal to feed that sugar, because sugar burns off really quickly, right? So at my desk, I've got this tiny little trash can. And when it was Thursdays, our trash days, I would go into our kitchen and literally dump it in and then cover it back up because I didn't want my husband to see all of the snacky foods, health food, snacky foods that I ate throughout the day as I work. I work a lot of hours. And I would just get so famished and so hungry because I was burning sugar for my fuel. Right now I'm fat adapted. And essentially my body, when it needs fuel, it's going after the fat stores instead of looking for sugar. Number one, cancer and a lot of autoimmune diseases cannot thrive on fat. They only thrive on sugar, which many vegetables, many grains, they produce sugar.
Vegetables, grains, pastas. Yeah.
Yeah. Fruit's a little bit of a different category, especially berries in season, but that's a whole different, we'll do a different interview for that one. But all of that to say now, about the first meal of my day, just because I'm not ready to eat, is about 2:00. I'll have a big steak or hamburger with an egg on top or whatever it might be. And then at lots of fat, you want 70%, just pour that yummy drippings, all over it. And then I'll eat again in the evening. I try to stop eating about
So
a
is
couple
2
hours.
p.m. your first meal of the day?
Most days I go by my body.
Okay.
If I'm
You
feeling hungry,
do you have like a protein shake or anything?
no, no.
No, you just, when you get hungry.
Yeah.
But how did you start it? Because intuitively, if I say I'm only going to eat meat tomorrow for the next 7 days, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to be hungry. Would you just have like steak and eggs?
Totally. Yeah. So I
And then
didn't,
when you're hungry again, eat steak and eggs again?
um, we kind of switch it up. So like in the morning, if it's steak and eggs, then we'll have maybe a hamburger and now I'm eating dairy. I haven't eaten dairy in years, but it's raw as I can
Dairy's
get
so
it.
good. I
It's
love
so good.
cheese.
So a little cheese on top. Sometimes one of my favorite kind of comfort foods is the party wings, the chicken wings. So I'll fry up some chicken wings
I
and
haven't had chicken wings in like
they're so
ages.
yummy. They're so yummy. And
You know
then
what my favorite always was though?
what?
We used to do something, we call it deli plate. and we'd get some like nice prosciutto and some salamis, and we get some nice cheeses. And I can't wait to do that again.
Well, one thing about me that's quirky, that's not regular carnivore, which I think is it makes carnivore a lot more fun if you partake in pork. I don't. So I don't get the bacon and I don't get the pork rinds, which pork rinds you can grind up and add some cheese to and make some really great crackers out of. Like there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with those.
Okay.
I don't eat pork.
I'm not, yeah, it might be have it in sausage or something, but I'm not big on it, I don't think.
I stick with ruminant animals as much as, well, I pretty much
Which
stick
what
with
animals?
ruminants. So those are animals that have multiple filtration systems. So
Oh, the more stomachs.
yeah. So those
Gotcha.
of you who are saying you need the nutrients from plants, you're right. You do. But what you don't need are the toxins from the plants. So when you eat ruminant animals, those are animals that eat vegetation. They graze all day long. Cows, deer, elk, bison, goats, lamb, all of those kinds of animals have multiple filtration systems. So they eat the plants for you, and then they filter out the toxins. They store the nutrients in their fat, which goes back to Lucy. It goes back to why you really do want to get farm raised fat versus factory raised meat as much as possible. We do as much as possible. We're not going to fret it if we've got to, grab a steak
If you're
from,
out and you got to grab something, you're at a restaurant, you're not gonna. It's like the way I was with being a vegetarian. If somebody gave me a soup that had, you know, a bone broth as a base, I wasn't gonna freak out.
yeah.
You know,
Mhm. Exactly. So, the ones who do, there's different levels of carnivore, right? I'm just baseline. I'm not going too crazy. But there are what they call the lion diet. And those are ones who only eat ruminant meat. Um, um, beef, butter, bacon, I think is their thing. I guess bacon isn't ruminant. So maybe the bacon isn't right. Anyway, I'm not that, so I don't know exactly what that is. But so there are, just like in veganism or whatever else, there's tiers of it. I'm at the tier where I'm not a ketovore. Ketovores allow certain amounts of vegetables in there. I do a lot better without the vegetables. It's
I'd probably
moment
be more ketovore than anything.
probably that sounds like, at least for now, because you are going from where you are, I mean, where you've been for years as a vegetarian and entering into
Just getting
this
back to
this
meat.
this new world. Yeah, just getting
Yeah.
back to meat. So I think that that's really wise. I think as your body begins getting fat adapted, you're going to lose the taste for that desire for the number of vegetables that maybe you're desiring now. There are times where there is such a thing as building up a meat aversion, which you wouldn't think that you'd ever get tired of eating ribeye steaks, right? But it's like one more ribeye steak. I don't know if I could do this. But it's just a wall you bust through, really, with any changes. You just keep powering through, you bust through it, and you get to the other side, and it's all good again. But I will say that people are like, I can't afford steaks every day. There's just no way I could afford that. Yes, you can. If you would look at all the things that you buy, all the condiments, all the little treats, all the different kinds of beverages, all this different kinds of spices. I basically use salt now. That is it. Do you want some spices? Like I've got a whole, I was all about the spices before. All the different things that you buy, it has simplified my life so much. Like I had so much joy cleaning out my freezer, cleaning out my refrigerator, cleaning out my pantry that was stuffed. Like we could hardly get it closed, where now it's just super clear. I know I don't have to think about what I'm eating. It's so simple. If I feel like candy, then I just brown up some butter, pop them into some little candy molds, pop those out anytime I get a craving. It tastes like caramel. Like it's incredible.
Wow.
I can eat heavy whipping cream now. So I'll just whip up some heavy whipping cream. I will stick just a little pure powdered vanilla on there, which has no alcohols, no anything. It's just a little bit of powdered vanilla, not 100% carnivore. That isn't, but maybe a few blueberries because I have a blueberry farm right next to me. I know exactly where the blueberries came from. And then that is like the greatest bowl of quote unquote ice cream that I've ever eaten. Like there's just ways that your body begins thanking you. And I think that's a big way that it begins thanking you. Like you're doing me so good. I'm just going to let you enjoy this.
Well, this is definitely a conversation that we're going to have to continue because I want to learn more about your journey and sort of share more about it because it's not something that we're going to get a lot of in mainstream anything right now. But as we wrap up today, Antoniette, did you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience?
I would love for everyone to know that they have the power to choose, they have the power to question, and they have the power to dig, right? Don't just because it's got a, a, a seal of some sort of approval from some organization or even, even your community doctor or whatever says this is the only way, this is the end all be all, this is the answer. Take that into consideration, but the buck stops with you. So don't ignore your gut, and your gut is the source really of everything. And don't relinquish your own courage. Get out there, get information, even on the side of that areas that you may not think you agree with. Just check it out. Check out the data behind it. Check out the real life testimonials and case studies that back it up. Be your best advocate. Don't relinquish your power to any other governing system, to any other um, clinic or organization. Those are all important. Take that in, but go those steps further because nobody's going to care about your health and the health of your family more than you will. No one will. As much as they may seem like they will not care about your specifics, your lifestyle, your preferences, and the length of life and the vibrancy of life that you want to live, not just to 70, not just to 80, but to 100 and beyond. We should be fully independent, living strongly and powerfully into our hundreds, into the hundred, beyond 100. And you have the power to do that, and only you do. So don't relinquish that. That's my biggest wisdom. I think too often we just, I don't, just tell me what to eat, right? That's not that. There's no amount of money you can make, there's no amount of accomplishments you can achieve that are worth very much if you don't have your health, right? Or if
So
you're
true.
dealing with a really sick child, right? So do your research and prioritize that.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. Now, my goal here for the roller coaster of midlife is to empower women like you to thrive in this amazing chapter of our lives. So go on, embrace the adventure, and start rocking midlife like the badass that you know that you are. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend because our greatest power is in our community. And make sure to join our new Facebook group, The Roller Coaster of Midlife, by clicking the link in the show notes. I'm also going to have all of Antoniette's links in the show notes and some of the books and doctors that she mentioned as well. Now, don't forget to visit my website, therollercoasterpodcast.com, and click on Start Here to get your free audio course, 3 Steps to Go from Hot Mess to Badass and Start Rocking Midlife. I'd like to thank you, my listeners, for choosing to join us. And Antoniette, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today.
Thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure.
And until next time, keep riding the roller coaster and embracing